You're gonna have to forgive me. I live on a mountain and don't talk to many people like this very often. But Tinctura is a nonprofit research and development group. We're on the central coast of California. We basically are a collective of members that we work together and produce quality medical marijuana. We do this because everything that we do is based on three things that we love, and that's cultivating, that's collaborating, I'm so nervous, and that's contributing. So Forrest, who is the cultivator, is going to talk to you or answer questions about growing. So thank you.
Hi guys. And because we're short of time, we're definitely going to do a Q&A type thing right now. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. I'll be happy to answer. If we don't have questions, I can definitely do a rundown of the plant and the environment. Basically, that's what you have. Any questions out there? Yes, sir. Tinctura. Tincture? T-I-N. Yeah, there we go. What's going on, Russ?
Do you have recommendations for different strains or growing techniques for a climate like Texas versus California?
Certainly. So you guys, relative humidity, it's pretty high out here. I'm definitely seeing that. So there's a lot of, there's mildews, powdery mildew is definitely a common problem. You get different molds, stuff like that, different fungus that are fungal growth because of the humidity, because of the heat. Add all that together and it's just going to be nasty. And then that introduces pests to your garden. You get spider mites. It depends if you're outdoor or indoor. But you can have white fly problems. You can have all sorts of problems. But the worst, of course, is spider mites. So down here, I know Blue Dream, strains like that, Master Kush. They're definitely for beginners. But a lot of these are powdery mildew resistant. And that's the direction a lot of these strains are going. A lot of people who do these crossing, they come up with new genetics, stuff like that. They're looking for something that overcomes something that's a potential problem in one strain versus the other. If you like the way this one grows, this one tastes, you cross those. But then we start to get further into that. You start to break down the different CBDs. You got the different known cannabinoids. You got different terpenes even, the flavonoids. Start getting real specific on those things. You can really start to cross your plants. Really do beneficial breeding is really the aim of what we're doing. And then you get specific on treating different ailments. And you can really start to get specific, especially with concentrate, stuff like that. So I know in the climate down here, this is my first time in Texas, so I honestly haven't experienced it too much. But we get the different, I'm sure there's strains down here that you guys would know are better in this climate versus where I'm at. We still have damp basements, stuff like that. That's always going to create a problem. So you can use dehumidifiers, stuff like that. But if you use, say, a split dehumidifier, it's going to cause heat. That's what's going to happen in your room. So then that's where you got to be real savvy with how you're going to set up your environment. You got to use your fans properly, your AC properly. You can use dehumidifiers, use CO2, but every time you throw in a variable, you're going to have to tweak another one. So I hope I answered your question, Russ. Got another one?
Have you tried the topsy-turvy method?
Yeah. Well, there's several methods. You can grow the plant any way you want to. It's a plant, you know what I mean? You guys see plants grow everywhere. You see trees, you see whatever's going on. Basically, it's photosynthesis. You use different ways, different growing medium. You can do it wherever you want to, on a wall, upside down, wherever you want to. And that's where it's fun. If you have to be discreet, you can really get crafty with how and where you grow your plants. You can even almost do like a vine technique. You can keep them real low to the ground. You do like a scrog method, the screen of green, where you can, wherever area, you can take one plant and take up a 10 by 10 area, longer than that if you need to. But basically, if you're going to do a screen of green, you're going to top those plants. Just keep topping that plant. You take clones with that if you'd like to. Just give that 45-degree cut right under a node. That's where most of the meristematic tissue will be forming, and that's where that's where it's gonna push out those roots. The meristematic tissue is it's responsible for, first of all, the shoots coming up, but then in the root structure as well. So if you've got your plant, your roots are growing down just as your plant is growing up. So you've got to really make sure you're taking care of your root structure. You can use different beneficial bacterias, microhyzae, different fungus even helps. You do this mycelium. You use, you can introduce these spores that allows your roots to pull up more of the water and the different nutrients. So there's a lot of techniques in that as well. Do we have any other questions over here?
Are there any issues with growing amongst other plants in your garden?
Thank you. Yes, sometimes there are, but sometimes that can help you. All right, so if you're, there's actually, you can do a lot of crafty stuff with that. That's when, like once you start grafting, you can graft one stalk to another, a similar structure, you know what I mean? So you can do barley, you can do grapes, people do a lot of stuff like that. You can graft the cannabis clone within that, and that might help you because it has a root structure that you know has been there for a while. You know that it gets enough water, ample water, whatever's gonna happen. I always like to throw pepper plants right in my little area. That's it's a good pesticide people use, a natural pesticide. You don't have to worry about using chemicals, none of that stuff. Basically what it is, you can crush those peppers down and you feed that to your plant, foliar spray, whatever you want. Bugs are gonna bite into that and they're not gonna dig it. They're gonna get out, they're gone. So you start throwing pepper plants in there and bugs generally, there could be problems, stuff like that. But be careful bringing plants into wherever it is. If you're doing outdoor stuff like that, you want to keep your outdoor plants away from bushes that are surrounding, perhaps trees, fences, stuff like that. I don't know if you have snail problems here, but you can definitely have caterpillars come up. They wormhole through your bud. You don't want that. You get, there's a lot of different bugs that you don't want. Ladybugs, of course, you do want. But I think there's benefit to adding different plants, especially if you want to keep it discreet. You know what I mean? There's certain plants that have a similar leaf structure, and those are the ones you want to stick to if you want to keep it discreet. Any other questions? Right. We got two. I'll get you in just a second.
It just seems really intimidating how much you have to add to grow and all the knowledge you have to have, the fans, the dehumidifiers.
Certainly.
Really need that much for just one or two plants or something inside?
Well, that's the beauty of it, man. It's a resilient plant. You can really put it through a lot at certain times. Certain times you even stress it on purpose. So that's the beauty of it. Don't be afraid. Do not be afraid. Start from seed, do whatever you want to do. There's plenty of stuff online. You can read plenty of literature, books, stuff like that just teach you, real basic methods. But if I were to break it down as simply as possible, as few words as possible, you've got the plant, you've got your environment. In your environment, you got to take care of the lighting, you got to take care of the air. And then your plant is going to need a growing medium. You can give it clear water, clean water, you know what I mean? Throw it through reverse osmosis, deionize. You can get that at watering stations. You can grab a 5-gallon jug and every 2 days fill up 5 of those. That's what it takes. You can definitely, have you ever grown, and you've grown a plant, right? A tomato, it could be a tree. No. Yeah. Start.
Someday I will.
Dirt plant water. Yeah, start with tomato. Tomato is actually an excellent way. If you really want to jump in there with at least a little bit minimal knowledge, start with tomato plants. You can definitely, you can throw them into flower. You can force them into flower if you want to, or you can use the natural light. Keep it outdoors. But definitely, don't be afraid, man. It's fun. It's fun. You'll love it. Yes, sir?
Texas is what's known for its heat. In the summertime, they call it a nuclear winter. In Texas. So some of the problems that people encounter with heat-related issues. So there's some newer technologies of lighting that are out there.
Certainly.
Like induction lighting specifically from a couple of companies, 2 or 3 companies that are making them. And so there's a lot of folks that are come to us and say, what about this nuclear lighting? Wow, that's pretty good. Do you have any insight into this?
Yeah, actually. Yeah, this year I actually just started to do I'm doing several under LED right now. LED is very low heat, and then you can get the specific, the light spectrum at certain heights, so you can really work it. You can get them right up on the plant if you need to. You can't do that with a high pressure sodium or metal halide. There's no way. And then people are starting to, or they've been doing a lot of fluorescent stuff. You can do the T5s, are generally what I like to use. You can do the T12s, the big ones. It's not really it's good, small. Yeah, there's different types of induction lighting. There's different things. What's beneficial about that is that it reduces your energy draw, but at the same time what you're saying is that it reduces the temperature as well. You don't have to worry about as much ventilation. But we can't forget that you still need to exhaust that air. You still need fresh air to come in. So I know a lot of people try to cut corners. They say, hey, I'm using these lights right now. They're not going to produce enough heat. Well, guess what? You're still going to have to exchange that heat, that air in that room. You got to, the CO2 to the plant, and the plant puts off the O2. You got to keep that cycle going. So basically, we're Mother Nature to whatever environment we're working. Yes?
I generally try to steer away from GMO foods.
Certainly.
And from what I understand, cultivating marijuana is kind of genetic engineering.
Certainly.
And so why is it safe to consume genetically modified cannabis as opposed to food?
All right. As a professor just told me a few weeks ago, he said, don't believe the stuff about that GMO shit. It's French propaganda, is what he tells me. I see it though. I definitely see what you're saying. You want to stay away from a lot of those GMOs because I like all organic, all natural. All my produce comes from local farmers, growers, stuff like that. So I'm definitely on that with you. The problem with GMOs though, people see them as it's a negative thing, has that stigmatism to it, that stigma, it's just bad. So I honestly see a beneficial aspect to it, and I think that's a lot of stuff that we need to focus on because there is, whether or not we know it, when you're crossing the strains like that, what you're doing is you're genetically modifying an organism. I mean, they're making synthetic seeds now. You don't even have to produce a plant to get the seeds off of it. So, it's definitely going in that direction. It's definitely in the pharmaceutical industry. You're going to want to pinpoint exactly what you want from what you're growing. So I think a benchmark of progress, almost, as I'd say, GMO is, that's what we're doing to it. Definitely. What's that?
What I would think that you probably look at is GMO determines what they're modifying for.
Certainly.
If the scientists are modifying the plant for kill insects, then perhaps maybe you want to stay away from that plant.
Exactly.
But if they're modifying it for healthier reasons, then that might be the angle that you want.
Certainly. Certainly, it takes a lot of research, and then that's where it's, even in California, you can walk in, you can buy 500 clones. You don't have to start with seed, nothing like that. Fine, good to go, plant them, you're good. Even in that kind of environment, it's like out here, I couldn't see it being easy to just pick up clones and drop, but even when you're doing that, you're still unsure of exactly who did the crossing, why they did it, what's in it, stuff like that. So you're still kind of unfamiliar with what it is. So a lot of times, I mean, we'll try to start straight from seed bank, maybe from Europe, maybe from California, wherever. But if we're starting with certain strains and then you see that this one has this terpene and these different terpenes will work together, or the different cannabinoids. And it's not just that this does this and this does this, and that's the mystery of medical marijuana. As it's this in conjunction with this will have a certain effect, and they will on each other. So it's not so cut and dry of like, if this happens, this is the, produce effect, and especially because we're all different, we're all going to need specific medication. So it gets, there's definitely beneficial ways. If you're looking for medicine-specific stuff like that, and we're already doing that, If I like the taste of this one, I like the high of that one, let's throw those together, Like it could be as simple as that, but you're genetically modifying something once you do it. And then, like I said earlier, once you get into grafting, stuff like that, it gets interesting, but there's a lot to offer. What's that?
Could you touch a little bit on cloning as far as do you use a raw full fuse or
Oh, cloning? Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so Rockwool cubes, they work wonderful, like Grodans, stuff like that. So if you're taking the clone, you want to cut right under the node. Like I was saying earlier, that's where most of the meristematic tissue is found. So once you take that clone, you take it right under the node. So you want, I'd say 3 branches down. So you could take it 1 branch down, 5, or wherever you want to. But you take that at a 45-degree angle, 60-degree angle, and then you can use a powder or a gel, and you just dip that in there, and then you put it in the, so if you're going to use Rockwool, you can use cocoa pellets. Now there's aeroponic systems, hydroponic systems, stuff like that, where you throw them in there, and the aeroponic system throws water on that nutrient, that root zone 24/7. It's always going, week and a half, roots are busted out. If you're going to use Grodans, Rockwool cubes, the Rockwool cocoa pellets, whatever it is, you want to soak those in a nutrient solution. And if you're going to do all organic, you can start brewing your own tea. You use different guanos, different manures. You can go all organic, no chemical. But you can also buy over-the-counter organic now. And then you can, of course, just get like Clonex solution works well. It's not organic, but it's a vitamin B1. Definitely stimulates root growth. So are you just looking for, like, asking about a simple setup of how you do it, or anything specific?
Well, I've seen on the internet they talk about soaking it in certain pH. Can you
Yeah.
get it soaking just in water and go from there? Or?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes the different Rockwool will have different trace minerals. So what I would do is I start with clean reverse osmosis water. Starts out neutral pH 7. So you throw that stuff in there, and you can shake those out and get that water out. And then you soak that overnight, say in a Clonex solution or any nutrient solution you want. You just let that sit there for a night. Then when you take your clones, just do the 45 snip, you throw it in the powder or the root hormone, and you just find that at a gardening store. People do this all the time. I learned it from my grandmother when I was a child. It's very typical. You can take any plant and do this. But yeah, you just do that. And then you want to throw the humidity dome through it, because of that plant, 100% of that water that goes through that plant transpires through its leaves. It goes all the way through. It's just a vessel for nutrients. That's all it is. So that's where you get a pH specific. You do a 5.8 to 6.3 pH. If you want to do hydro, you keep it there. 6.5, you want to keep it slightly acidic, because it allows, that's the premium vessel that's going to give your plant the nutrients it needs, because it's going to soak that water up at that pH. So when you're cloning, you get specific with pH, of course, when you're doing that. You can get a high school kit with strips. You can get a digital meter, stuff like that, and a pH up and down. But as far as that goes, back on the transpiring, you want to throw a dome over it and keep the humidity up to 99%, 100%. And you leave that there for 2 weeks. You got to be careful with that sometimes, because if you're throwing say a clone in there with some sort of fungal growth on it, it will overtake your whole dome. But say you're using an aeroponic structure, 24/7 you're throwing water into that root zone, so you don't have to have a dome over it, because it's just always being pumped with water. So it's a method fun to experiment with. Done a lot of different ones. I've done straight into soil. It all works out. What's up, bud?
You mentioned LED lighting.
Uh-huh.
In indoor cultivation, for one plant, how much lighting do you put in with LED would you need?
Okay, so that's an interesting question. It depends on what kind of setup. I mean, if you're looking for one big one or just one decent size. Yeah, all right, I got you. Well, the panels come a little bit differently, all right? So each, like say it was a circle or a square, whatever it is, different manufacturers are going to make them a little bit different. So we use, which one? Do you remember what? We use these strips. I forget which company they are. But they use, I'd say 5 circles with about 25 little LEDs within those. So I think they're 2.5 feet. So for one plant, I'd say for 2 plants, put 2 of those side by side and you'd be good to go. But then you can get, just like the 8 rack of the T5 lighting now, you can just get the square rack going on, and that might just have a few LEDs here and there. But if you have something like that, it's usually going to be 4 feet by 2 feet. None of that, you could just do one plant. That would be very sufficient. I bet one of those columns, you could do one column for one plant if you can train it to grow outwards, because at the shoot, every shoot, you want the optimal light. Yep. So you just grow those into where the lighting is, and there you have it. What's that?
So with the LEDs, you reduce your electricity spike, and you also reduce the heat. Do you still get the same yield?
No. No, so a lot of people use the LEDs to supplement with HPS during flower. It gives it the different light spectrum. It still brings in some of the greens, some of the blues, violets, which helps grow just for the first 2 weeks, I'd say, once you pop it into flower. But if you're vegging, what I find it very useful for, you throw babies under the 8-rack T5s. Then you can throw them under metal halide if you want them to go real quick, real heavy in that blue violet spectrum. But the LEDs, I like to keep the mothers under the LEDs because it keeps them slow growing, but it still keeps them growing. So you can grow wide, bushy, you know, and keep the LED over that if you want slow growth. And I'm not saying, I mean, it's a hell of a lot quicker than fluorescent lighting. If you're not going to get the same thing using coils or whatever. But yeah, I would definitely recommend LED, especially in a place like this. It might extend your time a little bit, but I think you'll be happy with the results. All right. Are we all good? We're about to wrap it up. All right, if you guys want to reach out, you can find us on Facebook. It's Tinctura, Tincture. I'm definitely happy to be here. Happy to meet more of you guys. Thank you.